Of all the threats that faced the colony in its early years, the period known as the Starving Time, in the colony's third year, was the most devastating. And yet they had to face it without the two men most critical to the colony so far. The mysterious leader who earned an elaborate burial, and Captain John Smith. Yet history shows that this colony will survive. That from this tiny, beleaguered outpost, the English language will spread and come to dominate the continent, and a nation will rise. How did it happen? What was the secret of Jamestown's survival? It's the winter of 1610, 2.5 years into the life of the colony. John Smith gone, the Indians seized the opportunity to wage war on the colonists. They're trapped inside the fort.
To go outside meant certain death by the hands of Virginia Indians. To stay inside, pestilence and famine. They were in really bad straits.
New recruits have swelled their number to 215, including a few women. But food is scarcer than ever. Severe drought grips Virginia. Archaeologists have found evidence that the starving were driven to eat everything.
The colonists talk about having to eat their horses, cut them up into dainty squares. Very graphic examples of horses being butchered. You can see the cut marks here along the bone. And of course, hooves and teeth from their horses.
The hunger is so extreme that according to some accounts, the colonists even resort to cannibalism. Digging up corpses when everything else was gone. Nothing was spared to maintain life, writes one colonist. The graves reveal even more. Bodies buried helter-skelter, sometimes two to a grave. Hands crossed, legs tied, some obviously thrown in hastily without a coffin. In all, archaeologists have found the remains of 72 people in an unmarked burial ground. It appears that even as people were starving to death, a new threat invaded the colony.
There is a time when people are laid to rest pretty quickly, some of them in their clothing, which was never done traditionally by the English. Probably there was a contagious disease going on, so they're dying of illness, not famine.
The colonists' writings mention a supply ship that reached them the previous fall. On board, the scourge that had haunted Europe for centuries, the bubonic plague. This time, the threats facing Jamestown are almost too much to bear. 7 out of 10 die during the starving time. When a supply ship finally arrives in May 1610, it finds only 60 survivors. But again, new recruits arrive to keep the colony alive. And now, after a 3-year nightmare, the worst is over. From this point of maximum peril, the Jamestown colony begins to grow. The treasure hunt that began with dreams of gold has stumbled onto something even more valuable: a permanent foothold in a